Welcome to TechCrunch TV. I'm Evelyn Russley, and joining us today is Hugo Barra. He's the Director of Product Management for Mobile at Google, and Mike LeBeau. He's a Senior Software Engineer. Thanks for joining us, guys.
Thanks.
So you're fresh off your announcement for Google Voice Actions and pretty much a baker's dozen of features that you're rolling out. Can you give us the bullet points, the synopsis of what you announced today?
Yeah, sure. So we announced Voice Actions today, which is a set of features inside the voice search application on Android. The goal in designing these features was basically to automate and make faster the things you do a lot on your phone, which are more complex than a single step, right? Mm-hmm. Things that are kind of tricky to get done. You're fiddling with your phone for quite a while trying to make it happen. So we've added a whole bunch of those. Some of the ones that we think are most powerful are things like sending text messages. You can send a text message totally by voice now just by pressing the microphone button on the home screen of your phone. Navigating to businesses just by saying their names. Calling and finding businesses. Finding and calling businesses automatically just by saying the name. I can say, call Blue Ribbon Bakery in New York, and it just starts dialing the number. It's really, really fast. Listening, finding and playing music. So being able to listen to kind of anything using Pandora or Last.fm or any of these kinds of apps. These are the features that we think currently take a long time to do things, but now it's really, really easy, right? You can
a lot of these functions are kind of tied into a basket that makes it more seamless for the user. But you mentioned in the conference that this is kind of just the tip of the iceberg in a way. There's going to be other functions available. Where do you think you can push Google Voice Actions? What are some of the new features we can expect beyond this?
Yeah, it definitely is. I mean, this is we've added a ton in this release, but we think that it really is the tip of the iceberg. There's a whole bunch more we can do.
What else can you do?
There's so much to, one of the things that we've only done sort of an inkling of in this release, I think, is integration with third-party apps, and that's such a selling point of Android is sort of the openness of the platform, right? So we definitely are thinking about ways to make this as open as possible, so that other applications, just like any other feature in Android, can really participate. A good example of this right now is music. Other apps can kind of register for the music action and then be used for that. So you can trigger Pandora even though it's not a Google application, right? So I think there's going to be a lot of things coming down on in that front.
What are some of your fantasy functions that you'd like to create?
Fantasy functions.
Yeah.
I don't know. I got started on all this because I think that Star Trek is the future, right? So kind of looking at the kinds of things that Star Trek does, where you can just be in a room and call out to your computer and have it, perform a bunch of actions for you. We're getting very close to that, right? So I think the fantasy is near at this point.
Now, Hugo, you mentioned during the press conference that 1 out of 4 queries currently on Android devices are for voice. Can you give us some more detail on that in terms of how people are actually using voice search today? Is it mainly for maps? Is it for calling people? What is the way that people are interacting with voice?
Yeah, so people are using voice search for all types of web search queries, which is primarily what the product that's been launched so far does. It really covers the entire gamut of possibilities, from things on Wikipedia, specific questions, local searches, odd things, celebrity things. It's really a lot of stuff. Mm-hmm. And the amazing figure that you mentioned, 1/4 of all of the queries coming in through voice, it has to do with just quality improvements, right? That number wasn't nearly as high, a couple of years ago, and people have really been responding to the work that we've done, improving accuracy, improving performance.
When you're talking about currently 1 to 4 out of searches are voice, do you think that's going to increase to 1 out of 2? What are Google's projections for the importance of voice on mobile?
So I'm not sure if it's going to go to 1 out of 2 for web searches, but I would love for it to go to 1 out of 4 for SMSs, right? Wouldn't it be great if this technology was so good, and I think it is, that I'll feel comfortable sending the majority of my text messages, for example, from it. And I think it has to do with also people becoming comfortable over time with doing this stuff. It took me a while, when I started working in speech recognition many years ago, to actually get comfortable about the fact that I would do something in public. Today, I don't quite care anymore. I get some taxi drivers who look at me weird every now and then, but it's fine.
The cool factor, it seems like, according to a lot of the reporters who were covering the conference this morning, including the ones at TechCrunch, was how deadly accurate it seemed Google Voice Actions currently is. And why is there a discrepancy then between Google Voice Actions and your other type of voice functions? For example, Google Voice, which transcribes voicemails, and that has been somewhat humorous for its errors, and also YouTube, and its closed captioning. It seems like the technology you have for Google Voice Actions is superior to the other functions. Can you in any way port that technology over to the other services?
Yeah, so they definitely share a lot of the same core technologies, right? And I think that Some of the big differences are that in the case of something like Google Voice, voicemails, or YouTube transcription, the circumstances that we're trying to transcribe the audio are actually much more difficult. So a user, picking up their phone, pressing a button, knowing that they're speaking to the system is a very different experience and much higher quality experience in terms of audio and sort of speaker quality in terms of the way that they're trying to enunciate and things than something you find in a voicemail or something you find on YouTube with lots of speakers. That makes it a much harder problem, but we're sharing learnings from both of those to sort of build core technologies that do both of those things really well. I think we're further along at the moment on some of the voice actions functionalities because of the things I just mentioned, but it's all, as everything gets better on voice actions, it'll get better in voicemail and with YouTube and everything like that. So it's sort of currently at an inherent disadvantage, but over time I think it's going to get better and better on both fronts.
Now our readers and viewers at TechCrunch and TechCrunch TV are obviously interested in Android and what it has to offer, but many of them are iPhone users. When do you expect these functions to come out on the iPhone or other operating systems?
So we haven't started working on bringing voice actions to other platforms quite yet, but we are very interested in doing that. There will be constraints. There's a lot of things that we won't be able to do on other platforms because they're not as open or as easy to work with as Android is. But as we do with pretty much every single one of our products, we try to bring them to as many users as possible, and of course that means going to all the platforms out there. So that is work that we hope to start in the near future, but we don't know exactly what the
But you do plan to bring a lot of these functions over to different devices?
We absolutely will.
Okay, it's not a way to kind of lock it into Android and get people over to Android, is it?
Correct, no. It's a matter of getting out the door fastest with the sort of best product that you can, and we thought that Android was definitely the place to go for that.
So maybe by next year?
Hard to say. We haven't really started working on it yet, so it's hard to say when. But hopefully as soon as possible.
Mm-hmm. Now, another thing that people talked about when it comes to the Android operating system is when is FaceTime, Google's version of FaceTime, going to come out? And I guess that kind of comes under your department. So when do you guys plan to roll out something that is the equivalent to FaceTime, which is a very popular function right now on the iPhone 4?
Yeah, so there's absolutely no plans announced yet. In fact, Mike and I work on the mobile applications team. We don't work on the Android team. So we're really not close to that kind of activity, and really nothing has been announced. I think it's all been speculation, and we don't really comment on speculation.
But what about the strategy going forward? Is video and voice going to be more important to Google? Do you plan to roll out something that's like it, roughly equivalent?
Yeah, I think the challenge with video has to do with the network environments where this stuff gets used. It's going to be tricky to bring it to cellular networks for a while, so I think we have to think carefully about the right time to do something like that.
Gotcha. Now, before I let you guys go, just wanted to ask you, Mike, you've done a few of these videos now, and I immediately recognized you as soon as you walked through the door. You of course were wearing your Android t-shirt. So can you talk us through the process of making these Google demo videos?
Yeah, so it's really fun. I mean, the first one was the iPhone voice search video back in 2008 when we first launched Search by Voice. And the process was basically just like, find somebody on the team who's very passionate about what they're doing. I mean, that was, in a lot of ways, was really a very strong passion of mine, and everybody on the team knew it. So it was like, hey, let's have Mike do the video, and I think it was pretty similar in this case, right? It was, voice actions has been sort of my baby from the beginning, and I've just been really, really passionate and committed to it.
So who writes the scripts? Who trains you guys to do these videos? Does it require any training?
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit of a collaboration. I wouldn't say there's a lot of training per se, but there's, we'll start with a script usually from marketing. We might kind of make tweaks to it and say, oh, well, this feels more like me.
Mike is being modest. He writes it all himself, he directed it himself, and he pretty much does the editing himself as well. He is a jack of all trades.
I was very passionate about this launch.
So what has it done for your social life?
It's been interesting. You wouldn't believe the random Facebook friend requests I get. And
do people recognize you on the street?
I've had it. Not yet for this one, because this one just came out today. We'll see how this goes. But for the old one, one of the funny things that happened was I was living in London at the time. We were working on the mobile team in London there. And I was taking the train to visit my brother in Cambridge, and it was the weekend just after we'd launched. We launched on a Friday, and this was Saturday or something. And there's a guy sitting right across from me on the train, messing around with his iPhone. And all of a sudden, I noticed he's kind of watching a video. He turns to me and goes, "Is this you?" He had gotten the article from TechCrunch or something, and then found the YouTube video and was watching it right in front of me. And I was like, "This is odd. It's the same guy." So pretty strange experience. I thought at that point everything was going to be different, but it's not as common.
Perks of Google Celebrity. Well, thank you so much, guys. Really appreciate it.
Thank you,
and look forward to checking it out on the new Android operating system, and it's available, of course, on the new Droid 2, which is just coming out. So
please send your feature requests. We'd love to hear what you want to see out of voice actions.
yes, and if any TechCrunch readers, of course, have any comments or requests, send them their way. Thanks so much, guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks.